You're listening to Mixing Mindsets. I'm Andrew Blank.
And I'm Eric Navrosky, and we hope you find some value out of these conversations about lifestyle, music, and more. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mixing Mindsets, and we're going to be talking about our approach to songwriting.
This is where I think I'd be able to give you a lot off the top of my head because it's the thing I'm most passionate about in terms of music.
I think you shine in this element.
Thank you.
I don't think you need. I don't think you have to be humble about it. I do think you shine in songwriting. You obviously have many projects that you are a part of,
right?
Songwriting wise,
yes.
And each of those is incredible.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I think I've learned over the last couple of years that my heart really is in songwriting when it comes to music.
Right.
It's the thing I'm just the most passionate about, and it's the thing that drives me the most, and it's the thing I want to do. So
yeah,
it's nice to be able to experiment, especially in the studio element with you.
Yeah.
And just be able to create a bunch of different things in different genres and utilize a bunch of different elements because I think that's awesome.
Right. So we've got a couple bullet points within this topic. I think we've got our band, which is So Much Hope Buried.
Correct.
Then we've got your band, which is CenterQuest. Then we've got my band, which is Toothless. And then we've got the producing that we do together.
Right.
So we got like four pretty big topics here that we're going to try to cover.
There's a lot of ground to cover, and I feel like it's wherever we want to start. We'll just go right in.
All right, we're going to start with CenterQuest, move to Toothless, then So Much Hope, and then our producing.
Let's do it.
Sound good? All right. So CenterQuest. So your approach to songwriting with CenterQuest.
So CenterQuest, for our audience who doesn't know anything about my band, it's pretty much classified as like a pop punk, easy core, whatever you consider that type of band.
Sure.
So there is a formula when it comes to that, but I'm like, when it comes to that mind frame, I am just a child of like those early 2000 pop punk bands, like your Blinks and your Green Days and stuff like that.
Right.
So I feel like at its core, Send Request really is that.
Okay.
So I mean, it's the band started when I was 18 and still figuring out how to like properly write, you know, verses and choruses and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
So I think you and I hit a big topic before when we had this conversation about how it's about emulating your heroes.
Yes.
And then kind of figuring out what you like, what you don't like, and you kind of morph into your own thing.
Yeah. You copy it first.
Right.
And then do that. And that's literally, I'm sure the same way that CenterQuest started was the same way that Toothless did.
Yes.
Where like I started writing and I was like, I'm going to write like this band.
Exactly.
Rather than writing like me. But I think that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of introspection. And it's really difficult to just write like you.
Exactly.
It's much nicer and it's easier to say, well, how did this band do it? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to give that a shot. Right. And see what happens. And if you can do that, you get confident in pulling it out of yourself.
You start figuring out what works and what doesn't. And I think that was like Send Request was kind of like my guinea pig for that.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, okay, there's this batch of songs. We didn't know what we were doing with the recording aspects of things. We were still young, just fresh out of high school.
Right.
So, I mean, the first demos were horrific, but we put them out there. That was the thing. So it was just like, what works?
With the EP?
Before the demos.
Oh, the demos. Before what was Make Your Move?
Prior to Make Your Move.
All right.
Yeah, we had.
I know my CenterQuest history.
Exactly. I think we made them. We put them like we just burned them on discs, and it was made in like GarageBand. It was not.
That's rock and roll.
Exactly. But through that experience, even though like the quality wasn't the best, there were still people responding to certain things.
Yeah.
About like, oh, that chorus was sick, or like there was a guitar solo in there, and this one part was cool, and this verse was weird. And then there obviously at the time you'd have your friends that were brutally honest, and I always loved and respected that. And so they would just kind of be like, dude, your lyrics are dumb. But there's something about that. You're just like, okay, I know.
There's your growth in songwriting.
Exactly. I know what not to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of your beginnings of CenterQuest. Let's fast forward maybe into writing Perspectives.
Okay, Perspectives.
Which is a CenterQuest album, for those who don't know.
Right. So that was our first album released on a label. So it was like a big deal. We wrote the majority of the album prior to, but the goal for the Send Request people, Make Your Move was kind of this conglomerate of fun, upbeat pop rock songs, because at the time that's just what I was into. That's what I wanted to do. Right. But I grew up a little bit in the next couple of years, so I knew for the next release I wanted to create something with an emotional attachment that kind of portrayed growth.
Okay.
And so but I also wanted to keep like the lightheartedness and the fun aspects of Send Request.
Right, yeah.
So
Dr. Dare.
Exactly. So there was something about how do you fuse them?
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I think that a whole different element came in where it was just like, okay, I know it worked for the pop rock thing now, but now I want to get a little more serious with some of this. So let's pull some serious lyricism from life experience and just kind of create this upbeat thing that can get serious at times, but it's kind of looked at in a different manner. And
now what about like on a day-to-day, like you're actually sitting down to write the song,
right?
Like what did so all right, so Make Your Move is out and you're good with that, and you start the process of writing for Perspectives.
Right. When
you sat down, were you like, how did that flow out? Was it I think song by song? Was it little parts here and there that ended up being?
So I am a creature of, you have to pre-plan everything. I mean, it just okay. I have to go in at least having like at least 10% of an idea of what I'm doing. It's hard for me to walk into a room blind and just be like, within 5 seconds, be like, this is what we're gonna do.
Okay.
I have to at least have just the start of the idea in my head. So what I told myself for those writing sessions was I'm going to get out of work, go home, and devote a couple hours every single day for I don't even know how long it was.
Right.
To just kind of create something. And there was a lot of experimentation and chasing feelings more than anything.
Yeah.
I had this perspective that if
right
that if I was able to feel something from this, that I felt like an audience member would resonate with that.
Okay.
So that was my goal.
Did you think musically or lyrically? Obviously
both.
Lyrically, but
honestly, it was both. There was this, it was kind of back and forth, like depending on the song, where sometimes the music would just strike a thought for lyrics, and sometimes the lyric would strike a thought for the music.
Oh, okay.
But both times, like, you had to just chase that feeling of like when the idea was there, you had to like kind of emotionally analyze how it would make you feel.
Right.
And I felt like that if it resonates with me, I feel like it has to resonate with other people.
Right. So I know that you're a somewhat of a multi-instrumentalist.
Right.
So like I've seen you play the piano to a certain extent, probably not as good as you can play guitar, but still. So when you go and you sit down in these rooms for writing sessions, do you pick up a guitar? Do you pick up a piano? Like,
guitar is my go-to always.
Okay. Does it start with a computer? Do you use a computer, or are you more of the guy who just like sits and hashes it out?
I think
like by yourself or something.
At the time writing that record, I remembered it was a lot of rooted in guitar. When you listen to a lot of Send Request, there's a lot of like very distinct riffage in it.
Okay.
I just exactly. Yeah. I grew up being a guitar player. It was the first thing I've ever done, and so like I always loved those iconic guitar riffs, like Blink-182. That was just my territory. So the band was rooted in that. So I always kind of stayed true to that.
So how about now?
Now it's just completely different.
This is post Perspectives.
Fast forward 2021, 2022, with So Much Hope and just producing with you and everything. Like my world was kind of rocked in the best way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, truthfully, because I always wanted to. I always had this craving of wanting to experiment with more sounds, and I mean, I could show you like tons of different demos that kind of didn't. At the time, Send Request being my only thing, I just kept writing a bunch of different types of genres for the band that obviously felt like they belonged within that band, so they just kind of turned into nothing.
Yeah.
But
just demos on a computer.
Exactly. But something about doing that and just loving doing that
right.
kept me well versed in different genres of music.
Yeah.
And so when I'm able to take those different elements and apply them to different things now, like You're So Much Hope and the other artists that we produce, it's just kind of it's like I was educating myself without knowing what the goal was.
Okay. That's cool. And it feels like you sort of got lucky in that,
right? Because
you didn't know the goal.
Exactly. The goal, but
it happened.
It was just one of those things where, truthfully, I had to realize that I'm truly passionate about songwriting because I was just doing that because I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those things where, like, yeah, don't get me wrong, the end goal is always for an audience to see it and get some type of accolades from that. Like,
right.
I feel like that should be the goal in any type of creative field.
Right.
But, like, the fact that it stemmed from such like an honest, like, pure place.
Right.
That just really struck me, like, oh wait, like, I actually enjoy this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And I think what an interesting segue from that is, it sounds like you wrote perspectives and other things kind of on an emotional basis. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever written a song out of emotion.
Okay.
Yeah, which is weird.
Right.
I know it sounds strange because I know a lot of people will say, like,
absolutely. Chase the feeling, blah,
blah,
blah, blah.
Yeah, I was in a dark place when I wrote this.
There's so much,
that kind of thing.
And by all means, I'm a huge advocate for, like, mental health awareness and everything like that. But I mean, sometimes you just got to be, like, honest that there is an oversaturation to that, and that there's good and bad within that.
And I think that works for some people, and I think that's great. If, like, I never understood that. I never understood how someone could be in a dark place and write music.
Right.
Because to me, when I was in a dark place, I did nothing.
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
Like, your productivity levels just tank.
And even coming out of it, it's not like I'm like, writing music based off the experiences, and I think I know why.
Right.
It's because I'm not much of a lyricist myself.
Okay. That makes sense.
So lyrics don't really come to me. So therefore, when I'm just writing music, I'm sitting down. So Toothless, I started Toothless, right? And I started writing in Toothless.
Yes.
It's a heavy guitar oriented band.
Right.
Sort of based around riffage, I guess, if you will.
Wait, so first of all, for our audience, I just need to put this out there.
Oh, no.
You are a substantially better guitar player than I am.
Oh, yeah. And whatever.
on the technical aspect. So I think that corresponds with this conversation.
Okay.
Because I feel like when I watch Toothless, I'm just like, what's his right hand doing now?
Yeah. So, like, Grinner.
There's something about that.
Yeah. So Grinner, a song from Toothless. I wrote the majority of it, little bits and pieces. I think the beauty of Toothless is that everybody kind of has a hand in things.
Yeah.
But I came to Toothless with the majority of the idea.
Right.
And it literally just stemmed from me sitting down. I literally picked up a guitar. I sat down and I was like, I had a goal, which was I want to write something stupid fast.
Yeah.
That is just like an onslaught of noise.
Right.
Which is kind of the vibe that I was going for.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, 230 BPM or whatever the heck it is.
Exactly.
I don't even remember.
Guns a-blazing fast.
Yeah. And I was just like, let's just start ripping. Let's just start, like, spazzy.
Right.
There's a lot of panic chords and freaky stuff, I guess, going on.
Right.
And I write because I'm like, oh, that was cool. I sit down with a guitar and I'm like, that's a cool sounding riff. I could see how this fits together.
Right. So in a way, there is a little bit of a chasing a feeling. I mean, the goal is
it's more of a coolness.
Chaos.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's less out of like, oh, I'm like feeling something like really deep on this.
Right.
Like it almost in like the Toothless world feels a little more. A little more just like chasing the coolness factor. Where I was like, that was sick.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's kind of like bringing me back to, the teenage years of like ripping on guitar where everyone had like their idols. Like, I want to rip like get the guy from Avenged Sevenfold or anything like that. Me when I was 13,
Yeah. So, and I also write with the idea of the person listening in mind.
Right.
Because I would go to shows, I would see bands, or I would listen to something, and I would look over at James, the drummer of Toothless, and I'd be like, that was awesome. That was so cool.
Yes.
And so when I go down to write music, it's very much like, is someone in the audience going to look at me and go, look at their friend,
that guy's
James,
so cool.
yeah, and be like, that was sick.
Yeah. No,
Yo, James, that was awesome. So that's how I kind of approach writing in the Toothless world.
Yeah.
And I don't think the way that you did it, the way that I did it, or the way that anybody does it is wrong.
Right.
It's just different. And I think that some people have to kind of find the thing that works for them.
Exactly. And I think that's a very big piece of information for everyone.
Yeah.
Is that there is, at least for me, there is no wrong.
Yeah.
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 Just if you find what.
Do you love it?
Exactly. You find the project that you're involved in and just kind of adhere to what that wants.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to change things up a little bit. But like,
yeah,
I think especially when people are starting to like form bands and try to find themselves in artistry, whatnot. Like sometimes they like to put themselves in like the smallest box.
Yeah.
Where like, case in point, like my brain instantly goes to like country. For some reason,
sure, yeah.
where it's kind of just like there's very specific rules to follow here, and if you stray away from these rules, you're not country anymore.
Yeah,
but
that song didn't talk about a truck or girls or a beer.
Exactly.
What's going on here?
real small tangent. I literally was scrolling through Facebook the other day and saw that some artist. It was like a sponsored ad, but he literally had a song that was called "Girls, Beer, and Trucks."
Yep,
that was the name of the song.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean,
that's
you know,
it. Like,
you know what you're doing.
You just did it, man.
Yeah, you know what you're doing when you do that. So then that kind of brings us to So Much Hope,
right?
Where we write together.
Correct.
Right. So Center Quest, you write you.
Yep.
Toothless, I write me.
Right.
And with some of the other guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But So Much Hope is very much a collaborative effort between you, me, and the rest of the band.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a completely separate side of writing when it came to So Much Hope.
Right.
And I absolutely love it because of Toothless, because I sit down with a guitar and I start writing things on guitar.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do that with So Much Hope. I don't really want to pick up a guitar. And I've told you this so many times.
Right.
Where like every now and then, if I pick up a guitar and I think of something that I'm like, oh, that could be cool for So Much Hope.
Yeah.
I throw it your way.
Right.
And that's where I leave it.
Yes.
I want to write the drums.
Right.
I want to play the drums. I want to write the drums. And I want to stay there because I want to utilize your brain.
Right.
And I want to utilize Derek's brain and everybody who is involved, in that.
Everyone comes from such a different place.
Exactly.
So that we're able to pull all these different areas.
Yeah.
And create something that's truly unique.
Because to me, I could pick up a guitar and say, all right, I'm going to write a song that kind of sounds like So Much Hope.
Right.
Right. But then it's just me.
Yes.
But if I sit down on the drums and I'm playing my parts and maybe I can, steer a direction into saying like, I think it would feel good to go from, this to this in terms of like a beat or a meter or a style or whatever.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like note choices with guitar,
right.
That is totally different to what you would do to what I would do.
It's like we're both able to contribute 100% of ourselves, but really only giving 20% of the whole pie.
I guess, yeah.
I'm kind of looking at it that way.
Yeah,
that weird realization just hit me that like it takes all 5 people from every different direction to create the full piece.
To kind of do it. And what I really like is basically staying in my 20%.
Yeah, me too.
And being like, this is what I do in this band, and I want to do it as best as I possibly can.
Right.
But I also don't want to influence too heavily the other people unless asked.
Exactly.
Basically, which is why I purposefully try to not really do much with guitar because I do that with Toothless. And there could be a crossover a little bit with So Much Hope and Toothless.
Right.
Because So Much Hope could get pretty heavy at times. So I don't want like my Toothless brain starting to pick up and doing things guitar wise that fits that, but also sort of crosses into So Much Hope.
Exactly.
But since you don't really write in that heavy way a whole lot, I can push you into doing that. And the heavy quote unquote that you would write and think of is different than what I would have done. And I think it creates creates so much hope.
There's a lot of push and pull, and I think that's a very, very unique and cool thing when it comes to this band.
Yeah, and it's very different when you're talking about your own music versus somebody else's.
I think 100%. And I think
to segue to segue into producing
100%. I agree wholeheartedly about that, and so much hope, and it's just so unique to have that different mindset. I think we've talked about this a couple of times. I'm going to go back real quick.
Okay, sure.
About how being the lyricist of one band and not being the lyricist of the other.
Yeah.
It's very unique and not even creating like piano parts or whatever, different elements. Yeah. Just kind of steering my own guitar lane, being the only guitar player in the band.
Yeah.
There's something very unique about being a part of what creates the foundation for the lyricism.
Yeah.
And it's just a very unique approach, and especially being a spoken word band.
Right.
I've said it so many times, it's just very unique to me how it feels like we have no restrictions.
Yeah, and it's great.
It's awesome. It really is.
Yeah.
It feels like the possibilities are just so much bigger than if you put us by some type of genre.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I kind of like that vibe of not feeling like you're in a genre.
Exactly.
That you need to write like X, Y, or Z.
To breathe.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah. And it feels good. It feels good to creatively get your outlet in that way. But anyway, so to segue, which now is a terrible segue. It probably wasn't great before, but
I ruined it. You had a perfect one, and I just slammed the door.
we talk about not our music,
right?
And the music that you and I write collaboratively with the artist,
right?
I think that is completely different of an approach.
Yes.
And
entirely different, especially when you're meeting this person for the first time ever.
Oh my gosh.
And you have to make a first impression of just like, especially if it's their first song. Like,
right.
It's like, I'm meeting you for the first song. I need to get to know you, need to get to know what your goals are.
Yeah.
And basically all of your influences and what like the long-term goal is.
Yeah.
And we need to figure that out in like 20 minutes.
Right. I think what's really cool though is that when somebody comes to us, they basically give us an outline.
Yes.
And that is cool.
Absolutely.
Because they'll walk in and they'll say, I kind of want to go along this route of genre, of music.
Yes.
And, we ask, how much can we push that? How much do you want to stay within that?
Right.
And we really are given a direction from the artist.
Right.
And it's really cool because we can basically be the motor to drive the ship.
Yeah.
Or the car or whatever.
Yeah.
But the artist and that person is the one steering it.
Definitely.
So they say, all right, like we're going to work together. You're going to move us forward and I'm going to tell you where to go.
Exactly.
And it just works so well, which is why I think.
And I feel like we occasionally we're able to put our hands on the wheel because I feel like we've gotten into conversations with people about how like we never mean to ever step on anyone's toes or anything like that. But there's something about doing this a little more long term where it's like sometimes they want to make like an impulse decision on something where it's like that won't look good years from now.
Yeah.
So it's nice kind of like being like a mini father figure of music.
Yeah, and it's cool.
It's sugar. It's going to be good now, but bad in the long term.
Yeah. So when it comes to the specifics of songwriting like that, you and I both heavily use guitars to write our songs, and I think what was really fun about doing the Thanatos record, was some parts were guitar oriented. But then other parts were like, we're gonna get weird. We're gonna put down the guitars and we're gonna write, either based off of drum patterns or MIDI instruments and just like odd sounds and that's what drove that forward.
And just there was a lot of everything specific to the situation. There was just a lot of imagery in my brain while doing that with Jared, just because of his vibe. Like something, like you look at him, it's just like, oh, like There's something about you is very Halloween, you know?
Oh yeah.
So we need to adhere to that like creepy imagery.
We pull that emotion into the music.
Exactly. And that's really cool. Especially when you're like able to like pick a person's brain, or even like one of those, this instance specifically where like, you know, you look at them and it's just like, oh, you already sound a certain way just by looking at your face.
Yeah, it fits, but you know, that kind of goes into branding,
right?
You know, like your brand means so much.
Yes.
You know, and the way that somebody looks at you, I mean, that's why people like Ghostmane or who they are. I think that's how you say it. I actually don't know.
I've always gone with Ghostmane.
I know there's an E in the middle of that, but I think it's Ghostmane.
Even if it's there.
I'm ignoring it.
It's silent.
Yeah. But yeah, so, you know, that goes off the branding. I think branding would be a cool topic, you know, in the future.
I agree.
You know, in terms of songwriting and how we do it, I think what I struggle with probably the most of songwriting is literally just sitting down and doing it. Allocating the time.
I think everyone does.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Like I always try to do that. But truthfully, like it depends on the situation, but like there are instances where I'll allocate like 2 hours towards songwriting and get absolutely nowhere.
Yep. Yeah. And there's other times you're driving to work and all of a sudden it just,
bam.
It's just in your head. You're like, oh, that's sick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there are instances where, you know, like I'll devote 8 hours to something and like I'll get the job done, but you just, it's so sporadic. You're just never going to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough. It's really tough to get somebody to like feel, you know, what they need to feel for songwriting.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a very personal thing.
Right.
Like if you're trying to get into songwriting and you're really trying to go down that route, you just have to experiment and find the thing for you, the thing that works for you. My
favorite songwriter of all time is John Foreman from Switchfoot. And one of the quotes that always sticks in my head is songwriting is a lot like digging.
Yeah.
You're occasionally you're going to hit a gold mine, but you just got to keep digging.
Yeah. No matter what,
Exactly.
You know, you write 30 songs and one of them's good.
Just keep digging.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think that's a good place to end it.
Agreed.
Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.